Do you ever wonder why, when you're dating somebody, the inconsistency makes you even more attached to them than it should? In the modern dating madness world, inconsistency is very common, especially when somebody is not interested. And it sucks. And we're like, ugh. And, but the thing is, it's like the breadcrumbing and the inconsistency. We're like even more attached. We're like, oh, we want to see what happens next, like this big dramatic, like soap opera, and we're like, why do we keep putting ourselves through this? Like the inconsistency is nuts. I'm not a big fan of inconsistency. However, hot and cold behavior is not chemistry. It's not passion. It is not love. Okay. This is something that our nervous system, it actually gets hooked on. That's like when we meet a guy and, he is not like overly dramatic. He's consistent. We're like, oh, we're like, well, he's boring. And we put him in the friend zone. And because we're so used to chaos and we're used to the hot and cold behavior, like, oh, it's like very dramatic. Wonder when he's going to call next, and oftentimes that's disguised as very toxic behavior. And kind of like how the cycle works is that, he pulls away and then you feel anxious. And then all of a sudden, like he comes back, and then we're like, oh, thank God, like he came back. We really like this one. And I wanted him to come back. And then all of a sudden it's just like, and then the cycle repeats itself. And then it's like, then he'll pull away. And then we're like, ugh, like this is just annoying. So this is just what's happening is it's like you're not attached to him, you're attached to the cycle that keeps repeating it. And often when these cycles come up in dating, we have to delete these cycles because they are not healthy. And you're attached to the cycle, unfortunately. And if you want a healthy relationship, you're going to have to detach from the cycle. Go and watch my video, 3 ways to emotionally detach from somebody. That'll give you some tips and tricks on what to do. And oftentimes, like when like with the inconsistency and us becoming attached, that is why, again, consistent men can be extremely boring, and that's why we put them in the friend zone. My friend and I were talking about this last night because she's currently in a connection with a guy and he's super inconsistent, and one day he's this and next day he's that, and he doesn't call on a regular basis. He'll call and then he'll be like, oh my God, you're my world. And I want to do all these vacations. And then he disappears for a day or two. And then I'm like, that is so annoying. I don't know. I can't deal. I don't know how you people deal with it, but to me, that's just that is not chemistry and definitely not love. You really want somebody that's going to be consistent, in their behavior. And again, healthy love can often seem very boring. And I know it's just like we just need time. Our nervous system doesn't recognize what healthy love looks like because we've just been dating like people that are just like it's just like super toxic, and we're like, ugh, like no, you have to break the cycle. Like otherwise you're just going to be a more emotionally drained, and it's going to be harder for you to recognize what true love is like. True story. I dated this guy for about a year and a half. And when I first met him, like things were great. We were talking every day, even before the date. But his behaviors, like some of his toxic traits were recognizable to me because I was like, oh, this just reminds me of like my ex-husband. And it felt very familiar. And then I felt like a sense of relief. And I was like, oh, and I'm like, this is something my nervous system recognized. And yeah, of course, he turned out to be very toxic. We would get into fights and then he would come back and then we get into another fight and he would come back. A lot of times I was calling him out on his behavior and he didn't like it. And I'm like, well, too bad. Like, I'm not going to put up with the BS. So oftentimes, like, a healthy, like the person can just seem absolutely boring. And then we're like, where's the drama? Where's the toxicity? So healthy love is definitely going to feel boring at first. And our nervous system isn't going to recognize it, but it is important to understand why inconsistency makes us more attached. Okay. So I hope that this video helped you and to kind of understand like why do we get attached to inconsistency, okay? And it's just your nervous system. You just have to kind of you got to detach and, break the cycle. That's all. All right. If you ever have any questions, dating questions, relationship questions, I can happily take them for you. If you have a situation, kind of like a little bit of a mystery that you need solved and what's happening, and over time in this dating realm, the only thing I learned how to do is play all these games and identify what behaviors mean, unfortunately. So, anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Email me at humortheheart@gmail.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. You all have an amazing day. Bye bye.